Well, every now and then a funny thing happens on the way to Halloween. An accident, I think, occurred over in the MCU. With all that terribleness coming out of She-Hulk, just more blatant stupidity than all the idiot messages and the misandry and some misogyny sprinkled throughout it. But just more than any of that was just how stupid it was, to the point that I'm almost just embarrassed for everyone involved, and they have no clue. Yeah. But anyway, so thankfully that came to an end, and then suddenly they decided to give a little Halloween themed special on D Plus. And that was Werewolf by Night, and clearly an homage to the old Universal Pictures horror movies, Dracula, Frankenstein, and of course the Wolfman. And that's pretty much, at least in style and look, they went with it being totally in black and white, except briefly at the end, and also the main focal point of the Bloodstone. That's at the heart of the plot here. Remained in color with its red glow, and it's not bad. It's pretty good. Other people really liked it, and by comparison, of course, which is a terrible metric because it's not much of a compliment, but it's easily the best they've done for MCU. So now I guess the lineup goes: Werewolf by Night is now the best. Albeit it's only one special. If they do a series, we'll see if they do. I guess they should, because this one is their best. They should expand on it. But and then following that would be Ms. Marvel, and then a distant third would be Hawkeye, and then everything else is just so bad, so disappointing in their own ways and everything. But still. She-Hulk, as bad as it is because of just blatant stupidity for the most part, is still not the absolute worst. That prize, in my opinion, is still held by Falcon and Winter Soldier for its insidious ethic. So She-Hulk is just the stupidest of the batch, even more stupid than Loki, and that's saying something. So Werewolf by Night is pretty good. Now there's some changes here and there they did. I am familiar with the character from the comics, not totally. He'd show up every now and then and other things, and I've seen a couple of stories from him. I did read the origin story of Moon Knight, the original origin story. It's very different from what he eventually became, but his first appearance was in Werewolf by Night because some people hired him to be Moon Knight and give him silver weapons to go up against the werewolf, because they wanted to capture the werewolf for their own nefarious ends and that sort of thing. So it's Werewolf by Night. We use the elements and trappings of horror stories and put it in that realm, but it was also in the superhero realm as well. And it was kind of akin to the Hulk, where he's on the run and he keeps turning into this monster, but he fights for good and that sort of thing. Well, I guess one could assume that this has been happening for this character. We don't really know how they'll play that out in the MCU, should they go forward with it, and I hope they do, because I think there's a lot here, which is interesting, because this is certainly an example of less is more. They built a good enough set for it and how they played out their story here, but it all stays within this one place. And they play it out. The plot is very simple. This is based on the character of Ulysses Bloodstone, who is dead in the comics as well, I believe. But then again, that doesn't mean anything in comics continuity. They can revamp that anytime they want. But in the MCU, he's dead, and he's passing on this amulet he had, the Bloodstone, which grants him power to fight off monsters. So this is a sort of secret society of monster hunters, and they've all come together to compete with one another on who gets the Bloodstone. His daughter shows up, but she's estranged from the family. That's Elsa Bloodstone. I knew her from Warren Ellis's Next Wave series. She is in the normal continuity, but I think Next Wave is now considered outside of the regular continuity of Marvel Comics. It was an interesting and kind of funny series. And I'd kind of forgotten. I had to kind of refresh my memory on that, because some of the scenes in here, because one of the initial complaints about it is that, well, it's more like, Elsa Bloodstone by night than Werewolf. Well, not really. She's prominent in it, and there's the beginnings of a relationship that they could pursue later, should they revisit these characters, and that sort of thing between the two. And there's an attraction between them and that sort of thing. And that's the nature of it. But she's the actual heir to this bloodstone. And it's clear that Jack, as they call him, I don't think they ever referred to his real name. His full name is Jack Russell. And so he's posing as one of the hunters, with them unaware that he's actually one of the monsters they hunt, because he's a werewolf. And so slowly but surely you begin to understand. It's revealed, why is he there? Is he after the bloodstone itself? No, he's not. He's there to help a friend, and the friend turns out to be Man-Thing. This creature that's basically Marvel's answer to Swamp Thing, except that the creature, in the comics anyway, doesn't really have a conscience of sorts. It's been subdued. There was a story in which it encountered Doctor Strange, and he revived the sentience of Man-Thing, and the creature couldn't take it, couldn't stand it. He didn't like being the thing that he was, and so Doctor Strange set him back. He subdued his consciousness again. Whereas here, there's definitely a back and forth between Werewolf by night, Jack Russell, and Man-Thing. So he's there to rescue him. He's the monster that's been captured and placed as the prize in this contest to see who's the best top hunter and wins the bloodstone. At the same time, they're fighting each other, so they want to take out each other and be the only one that can kill the monster and get the bloodstone. So Elsa's there because it's her birthright and all that, and she wants to get it. She does have the bloodstone in the comics. She wore it as a choker. It was this little red jewel on her neck, and I don't know if they were all that consistent about her abilities, that if the bloodstone gave her the super strength, or I'm thinking more accurately, it amplifies what she has and that her family, which would probably suggest there's some sort of mutant gene going on here. But of course, she's not an ordinary woman. She has extra abilities, and they don't really explain that in the show, which is a flaw. They should have done that, because she doesn't get the bloodstone to the very end. But there's this big ass bruiser guy and she just whips his ass, and like, you needed to make it apparent and clear that she's got some amount of superpowers, but they really didn't. And so that's that. Plus, she and Jack get in a trap, and she figures her way out of it and everything, but not through any kind of sheer force or strength or anything. So not sure that they're actually making that point, that's what she is. So that is a flaw. I'm terribly tired of seeing toothpick limb supermodels beat up 250-pound muscle-bound men. It just stop doing that. If you're going to do it, then there's something going on. She's got some kind of edge, but so other than that, the rest of it is basically the chase, and it puts about all the trappings of creepy horror movies in the meeting and whatnot. But overall, it's this hunt that's going on, and Jack Russell's there to free Man-Thing. He gets a hold of Man-Thing, and he successfully does this. Man-Thing escapes. We do get a demonstration of Man-Thing's powers that when he touches you and you're afraid, you disintegrate in his grasp. So that's what happens. Of course, in the comic book version, he doesn't really have much of a conscience, so it's not like he's evil or anything, you know. But a lot of the people were villainous people in the comic book stories that he would disintegrate and all. They would burn up and all that. So anyway, ultimately, it's down to the two. Jack tries to help Elsa, then he grabs for the Bloodstone, and it knocks him out because, well, he's a monster. So now he stands revealed, and the leader of the society is Elsa's stepmother, and they do not get along. So she decides to lock up Elsa with Jack and have him transform into the wolf and kill her stepdaughter. And then they would kill him and all that. And then the other hunter that she's chosen to be the winner would get it. Well, it doesn't work out because they try as they might for Jack to remember Elsa. He has to sniff her. So when he turns into the werewolf, he recognizes her as a friend, and so he doesn't hurt her. But he wipes out the rest of the crew, except the butler, and all that. And so it's, you know, pretty spectacular, him leaping around and doing all this stuff. And then that's that. And at the end, he reunites with Man-Thing, and they have a camp. And Man-Thing has a blanket for him because his clothes are all ripped up and it's cold. And they do well. And Elsa now rules the Bloodstone Manor and has the actual Bloodstone itself. And so it's quite the setup there that they could revisit these characters. And didn't even realize until I did Doomcock's show that Michael Giacchino was the director. He's known as a composer. He's done a lot of music. Most famously, he scored the series Lost. A lot of people have negative feelings on that. I always liked his music. Here, he's the director. So he did such a good job, and of course followed the lessons of less is more. Kept it very well stylized, and that's its strength to it. And especially with this supernatural element of the MCU, I think they should just give him Blade, and also perhaps the next Doctor Strange, and weave Doctor Strange into this type of stuff. And that's part of that supernatural world, and those characters you could visit. And I think Michael Giacchino has earned his place there now. At the very least, think very seriously of a Werewolf by Night series, and see if he'd want to oversee that. So all in all, not bad, pretty good, and easily the best of what MCU D Plus has presented. So if you haven't seen it, yeah, I do recommend it. Check it out. And the only other thing is Elsa Bloodstone is a redhead. She is not played by a redhead. So, oh man, another redhead. At this point, will Jean Grey, when they finally introduce the X-Men, be allowed to have red hair? I don't know. Of course, the whole thing was mostly in black and white. So, but no, she didn't have red hair. Of course, I guess I could say she's in her goth period, and she dyed her hair. You know, maybe that's it. I doubt it. Anyway, so for once, and I suspect possibly accidentally, or they just didn't care and they left Giacchino alone to do his own thing, and it worked. Hopefully more into that than just, hey, it just accidentally happened and the next Werewolf by Night project they do is terrible. Yeah, I don't know. But you know, when they do good work, they do good work, and this was good work.